Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Good morning. Can you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Yes, I'm Bryan, sixth oldest brother. I'm Bryan Pata, sixth oldest brother.
Okay, so
Fifth, I'm sorry.
I'm sure you're a little nervous. Have you ever had to testify in a courtroom like this before?
No.
So if you can just keep your voice up as we do this. So you, Mr. Pierre, you said that you're Brian's older brother?
Yes.
And was Brian younger or older than you? If you can kind of tell the jury where he was in your family.
Bryan was the ninth one out of all of us, and I was the fifth oldest. So after Edwin and Edric, he was the last one that was with us.
So was Brian the baby of the
He's
family?
the baby, yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about your siblings growing up? Were you a close-knit family?
Yes. Bryan and I were the closest out of everybody.
Even though you weren't the closest in age?
Yes.
And now, did you call Brian? I'm calling him Brian. What did you call Brian?
I call him Block.
Block? And did your family often refer to him by his middle name as well?
Yes, Sydney.
So Block and Sydney? Can you tell the jury a little bit about your siblings? You said you're the fifth oldest. Can you just give them a little bit of a rundown?
Yes, Kelly's the oldest, then it's Cosmer, then it's Ronette, then it's Jackson, then it's myself, then my brother's twins, Edwin and Edric. Sorry, it's Nelly, then Edwin and Edric, then Brian.
And so Brian has a different last name than you. Why
Yes.
is that?
Because when my dad came in, he had an alias. That was not his actual name. He came in as Constantine Finellis. When he came here, he changed the name to Junior Pierre. And that's the reason why I have Pierre and the other siblings has Pata.
Okay. So it wasn't his given name. Where did your father immigrate from?
Haiti.
So that was a name that was changed
Yes.
on his immigration papers?
Yes.
Okay. And what part of Miami did you and your family grow up in?
Little Haiti. And then from there, my mom just migrated and kept going north to North Miami.
So Little Haiti, north to North Miami.
Yes.
Did you move around a lot during your childhood?
Yes.
Who raised you?
My mom.
She raised all your siblings?
Yes.
And what high school did Brian go to?
At first, he started at North Miami Senior High, and then he wanted to go to a prestige school that was always winning in sports, and that was Miami Central High School.
And what sports did Brian play?
Football.
Did you play football too?
Yes.
Did all the boys in your family play football?
Yes, except for my oldest. He played for a little bit, but we realized that was not his type of sport.
Did any of your siblings play football in college?
Yes.
Who?
Edwin and Edric and Brian.
So out of your siblings, three of you made it to college football.
Yes.
And what position did Brian play in high school?
You could say him.
Was he always on the defensive side of the ball?
Yes.
So did Brian end up going to college to play football?
Yes.
And was he recruited out of high school?
Yes.
If you remember, can you kind of tell the members of the jury, was he someone that was looked at in the local area as one of the local football players in like the paper and stuff who was going recruited for college?
Yes. He was very known and popular because out of the community, he was a rider that started coming up, and everybody loved to see him be successful and get to where he was going.
So did that start in high school?
Yes.
Is that why he was able to transfer from North Miami to Miami Central?
Yes.
It was purely because of his football ability?
Yes.
And Was the University of Miami a school Bryan always wanted to go to?
Yes.
Where were you living when Bryan started the University of Miami?
We were living on 999 building in 167th Street, North Miami Beach.
So you were in Miami-Dade County?
Yes.
And once Bryan started at the University of Miami, I guess, tell the jury actually, they don't know. When did Bryan graduate high school and start at the University of Miami?
I think he graduated in 2002, and he started at the University of Miami in 2003.
Okay. So did he start right after he graduated?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So would it be fair to say if he graduated in 2003, or started in 2003, he would have graduated in the spring of 2003 and started football
And he came in right
summer
away.
and right away?
He came in and started as a true freshman.
Okay. And once Bryan started at the University of Miami, how often did you two keep in touch?
Every day.
Showing the fence, what's the pre-mark that you can do at 1 eye? Mr. Pierre, I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 1 eye. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
And how do you recognize this photo?
That's my brother, Bryan Pata.
And is this a fair and accurate depiction of how he looked in, I guess, 2006?
Yes.
At this time, the state would seek to introduce what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 1 eye into evidence.
No objection, Judge.
Okay, will be admitted without objection.
State Exhibit 1I marked for identification now becomes State Number 9.
Permission to publish, granted. Now, you said you talked frequently once you started at University of Miami. How often would you see Bryan?
Like every weekend.
Every week?
Yeah, every weekend, yes.
And how often did you talk?
Every day.
Did Bryan have a lot of time in between football practices and school?
Not really, no. Because like when he went to practice, he'll come home, he'd be tired, so we'll talk for a brief moment till I come on the weekend and see him when he come down and see us.
So on the weekends, he would come to see you?
Yes.
And
vice versa.
who's us? Who were you living with back then?
My mom.
Was that like a weekly dinner or something else?
Yes.
Weekly dinners?
Yes.
Or is that like a specific day of the week?
Like Sundays. It was Sundays.
Okay. And now, outside of football, did Bryan have any other interests?
Yeah, cars.
What did he like to do with cars?
We would get them, fix them up, and we'd sell them. Because at the time, there was no NIL, so there was only my mom and myself working. And at that time, he needed extra money. Because at the time, at the University of Miami, they was getting a scholarship, but it was enough to support as far as gas, food, and paying his, phone bills and stuff like that. So that's what we was doing.
So basically, the scholarship covered tuition, on-campus housing, and like an on-campus meal
Yeah.
plan, but nothing else?
Nothing else. Or financially, it was not enough.
And how did he fix up cars? Was he like a mechanic? What did he do?
No.
Or tell us what you two did.
Oh, well, I got into liking cars. So we used to like Chevy Caprices and stuff like that. And we just knew personally someone outside, that would fix cars for cheap. And that was a guy named Sudamar. And we used to take our cars and take them over there, get it painted, and we'll flip it and sell it. Put money in our pocket.
Okay. So that's how you two made a little extra money.
Yes.
And when you guys fixed them up, were these like fun paint colors?
Yeah, it was
things like
exotic
that?
custom colors.
Exotic?
Mm-hmm.
Can you just give the jury a little idea, like, so they can have a mental picture?
Like a candy paint color. Like, it was just a bright color, like a rainbow color. Any rainbow color of the car was painted.
And then you would sell the cars?
Yes.
And did he have any other interests?
Yeah, like sometimes he wanted to. He had started collecting guns.
How did he get interested in collecting guns?
Me and him used to go to the gun range, and then from the gun range we just started, going there just for fun, and then he started liking that.
Did Bryan get his concealed weapons permit?
Yes.
Okay. gun at
Yeah,
home?
he left it home.
And what gun did he carry? Did he carry all his guns
No,
on him?
just
or-
one he carried, at one point he carried just one gun.
What type of gun was that? Was
I
it a
think
handgun?
it was a handgun, yes.
Okay. And you said he lost his wallet?
Yeah.
Was that shortly before his murder?
Yeah.
So at the time of his murder, had he been carrying a concealed weapon in his car or on him?
He carried it in his car. He left it in his car.
But after he lost his
Yes.
concealed weapons license,
Yeah.
did he stop carrying?
He stopped carrying it because he had no time to get it, the concealed weapon.
Okay, so in the week or weeks leading up to his murder, had he been carrying a firearm?
No.
So, looking specifically at Bryan's senior year of college, so the fall of 2006, which would have been a graduation year of 2007, was Bryan dating anyone?
Yes.
Were you happy about the fact that he was dating someone?
No.
Why not?
Because I wanted to focus on football his senior year, and I told him just have all the distraction out, and this is it right here. And then all of a sudden he ended up having a girlfriend.
Had you met his girlfriend?
Yes.
And what was her name?
Jada Brody.
And was there anything specific about her, or you just didn't want him to have a girlfriend?
I didn't want to have a girlfriend, and then it was just the vibe of her was not, it was not fitting for none of us at the family, with the family.
Did you think it was gonna affect his, how he played on the football field and affect his prospects?
Both.
Okay. And did you make this known to him?
I told him that. Mm-hmm.
And can you tell us a little bit about what did you know his prospects to be at that time?
At the time, he had a few phone calls from a few people that was agents, and one specifically was Drew Rosenhaus, and he kept calling him and letting him know that, if he continued the progression that you're elevating, that he get in the top 15.
So instead of third round, top 15?
Yeah, top 15, yes.
And that was Drew Rosenhaus?
Yes.
Was he someone that all the players wanted to work with?
Yes.
And when did Drew Rosenhaus call Bryan?
It was one specific time that he came to visit myself. I was at my sister's Nelly house, and he was excited. So we was just having a regular conversation, and he said, "Look, Drew Rosenhaus is calling me." So he called. He was calling my brother. He put on speakerphone, and then that's when the conversation was had between him and Bryan, and he was telling Bryan that.
And how did Bryan react?
He was very excited,
Do you remember what month that was, or how close to his death?
I think it was it was sometime in October, the second week of October. It was the third game into the season.
How had Bryan been playing that season?
He was playing very, very well. At first, when he first was playing defensive end for his first 3 years, it was okay, but when Coach Hurt put him in the inside, he called all of us crying, saying, man, my career might be over because he moved me inside, but he didn't know how talented he was when he moved inside. His track star goes real high, and he was happy, and his name was all over the paper, how he's rising and stuff like that. We were excited, so he was balling after that. So we didn't know that him playing the 3 technique was gonna make him what he was at the time. That's what happened.
So the change in position actually made him a bigger star at the
Yes.
time. Okay. So I want to ask you, shift your focus a little bit. Did Bryan ever mention a teammate by the name of Rashaun Jones?
Yes.
Objection, hearsay, motions in limine.
Do you remember when you first heard Bryan mention his name?
Objection, hearsay, motions in limine.
Yeah, they had a scuffle on the 7th floor when there was not that year when Brian got it, no.
So when he first mentioned him to you, do you know about what either grade Brian was in or how long before?
I think he was a sophomore or junior, one of those.
Okay, so either 1 or 2 years
Yes.
earlier.
Mhm.
And the context you mentioned Rashaun in, what was the context around it? Were they friends?
Never
Objections,
friends.
lack of personal knowledge, hearsay, motions in limine.
Okay. I'm gonna sustain an objection to form of the question after you read it.
Was Brian friends with Rashaun Jones?
No,
And this is something you knew?
I personally knew that, yeah, no, never.
And did you hear his name on more than one occasion from
Not
Brian?
on multiple occasions, never.
Was it always in the same context of them not being friends?
Never been
Objection,
friends.
hearsay, motions in limine.
Overruled.
Sorry, you can repeat that.
Never friends,
Never friends?
no.
Now, going to the fall of Brian's senior year, what type of car was Brian driving at that time?
His senior year, he was driving a Infiniti QX 56.
And can you just tell the jury kind of, is that an SUV, is it a car?
It's an SUV.
What color?
It was black.
So at the time Brian got the call from Drew Rosenhaus that you were there for, was he still having issues with Rashaun?
Objection, hearsay, motions in limine.
Overruled.
Yes,
So specifically in October of 2006?
yes.
Yes. And did he specifically mention Rashaun by name?
Yes.
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
So now I want to take you back to November 7th of 2006. Do you remember that day?
Yes.
Did you talk to Brian that day?
Yes.
When did you talk to Brian?
Right after practice.
Do you know about what time practice would end?
I think a little after 6, you know, but he was calling me. He called me. He usually called me when he's heading home.
Okay. On your drive, his drive?
Yes, on the drive when home.
And where did Brian live at that time?
At the Colony Apartments.
How far, if you know, was that from where they practiced?
I think maybe like between 5 to 7 miles, not far.
Okay. And what type of phone was Brian talking to you on?
Nextel Church.
Can you explain to the jury, because I don't think those exist anymore, what that is?
It was a flip phone, and it's like a walkie-talkie back then. You could either call or use the church, you know, as the guys here have.
Like the walkie-talkie?
Yeah, the walkie-talkie.
And how were you talking to him that night?
On the Nextel Church.
On the church? Like using the walkie-talkie
Yes.
feature? And when you talked to Brian, was he alone in the car?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Because he finished dropping off a teammate, and then he was on his way home. So I asked him, you know, how far he was from home, and are you heading home? He said, I'm almost home. And that's how it was going. So,
Okay. Do you remember what you talked about?
we was going to Sudamar that weekend because I was off on a 4-day weekend, and he was like, cause Sudamar ended up painting a car that he did not like, and he wanted to be like more flashy. It was painted gold at the time, but he wanted a candy orange, like a Skittle color orange. And we was going over there to get him a deposit and have him paint the car over.
Okay. So you guys were talking about paint colors,
Yes.
cars.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something you guys often talk about?
Yes, all the time.
Did Brian seem upset?
No, not at all.
Did anything seem out of the ordinary?
Nothing. It was just a normal conversation that we had.
When was Brian home when the call ended, or the church, when you stopped talking?
Yeah, he said, yeah, I'm about to pull up right now, so I'm gonna talk to you later. And it was like, yeah, that was I signed off as far as saying like bye.
Okay, so instead of saying bye, he would say,
He would say, yeah,
and what song did that come from?
Jeezy.
Jeezy?
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, did you think Brian was home?
Yes.
How did you learn that Brian had been shot?
phone, and Catfish was like, his roommate Cat was like, hey, Patty got shot, Patty got shot. You got the voicemail on my phone, like, what? So when I called back, it's when he said that. So I ran to him and I said, let's go. I said, man, let's go. So we flew over there for traffic, and that's when we see the other tape. We didn't want to tell my mom, you know, because with my mom, knew something was wrong. How the way we left out the house. So that's how I found out.
So you got a voicemail, and then you spoke to Kat.
Yeah.
Is Kat's name Dwayne Hendricks?
Dwayne Hendricks. I thought Cat was playing, but the way he sounded on the phone, I knew that it was something serious.
How did he sound?
Hysterical, crying on the phone.
And who did you go with? Who were you with?
Yeah, my sister.
Your sister Nellie? When you got to Bryan's apartment, were police on scene?
Yeah.
And did you speak to the police that night?
Yes, I did.
Did you tell the police that night of Bryan's issues with Rashaun?
Yes.
Did you speak to the police later that month?
Yes.
And later that month, did they ask you to do anything?
Objection, hearsay.
Overruled.
Yeah, they told me that, I think it was about the car.
What did they have you do with the car?
Start the car and see how long it would take for the alarm, the lights to go off.
Whose car was this?
His,
Bryan's?
yes.
Where did you take Bryan's car?
I took it to the police station.
Were you there when they tested his car?
Yes.
And what were they looking for?
When you turned the, he had an alarm set on the car. So it took, when he turned the car off, the light would stay on. And for like, I think 60 seconds or something like that, how he had it set, and the lights would shut off.
And did you speak to the police in more detail that day?
I think so, yes.
Throughout the ensuing years, did your family stay in constant communication with the police?
Yes.
Thank you, I have no further questions.
Okay, Ross?
Yes, How are you, Mr. Pierre?
Okay.
Good. I know, we needed to take a couple breaks when the state was asking you questions. If you need a moment, let me know. I'll be more than happy to give you as much time as you need, okay? One of the things you were asked about whenever the government was asking you questions was a phone call that you had with Bryan on the night that he died. So I'm gonna ask you some questions about that. You said that you were on the phone with him, as he was driving home from practice that day?
Yes,
And you said it was on the next cell phone that would chirp like the walkie-talkie back and forth?
correct.
And that call dropped unexpectedly, isn't that true?
The car didn't drop. We signed off.
Okay, so your testimony is that the call didn't drop whenever you were speaking to him while he was driving home from practice?
We just signed off. The car didn't just drop like, I don't know.
Do you recall having a conversation with Detective Dominguez where you told him that this call dropped unexpectedly?
I think so.
So you do remember telling Detective Dominguez that this call dropped and it was unusual to you?
Proper impeachment.
Overruled.
Well, I'll ask it again, Mr. Pierre. You do recall telling Detective Dominguez that the call dropped unexpectedly and that was something that was unusual?
I believe so.
You were also asked some questions about how your family was sort of dealing with this and this, 15-year investigation. Understandably, as time went by and no arrests had been made, you and your family got a little bit frustrated by that. You would agree?
Yes,
You guys were frustrated by the lack of progress in the case,
yes,
and these frustrations were made known to the police department, right?
yes,
Your family let the police department know multiple times about the frustration with the lack of an arrest.
correct,
And those frustrations were also made known to media outlets, right?
correct,
There were times where your family reached out to the media and there was press conferences held where you and your family members expressed frustration with the lack of of an arrest in the case, right?
Correct.
We're also asking questions about some altercation that you heard of between Rashaun and Bryan.
Yes,
And you testified that there was a fight in the dorm room,
correct.
and you testified that that fight happened either 1 or 2 years before your brother was killed, right?
Correct.
So this would have been either in 2004 or 2005.
Yes.
You also testified that Rashaun and Bryan were not friends, as far as you were
They
aware.
were never friends.
Bryan did have some close friends on the football team, though, correct?
Yes, sir.
Dave Howell was one of those friends,
Yes.
and you still keep contact with Dave Howell, right?
Yes.
You guys talk almost daily.
Objection outside the scope and relevance.
Oh, well,
You still speak with Dave Howell, correct?
He's a family friend,
His family friend. And you speak to him almost daily?
not daily. We speak every often.
Okay. Moment to confer, Judge.